Hello, I'm Tim Krul. Welcome to Norwich City Central.
Hello, everybody. Lewis, Norwich City Central. Hope you're all doing well. It's been actually a little while since I've had a sit down and done one of these match previews. Of course, we've been doing the NCC show with Ducker, which has been a lot of fun, but it has been a little while since we've done match previews on the channel. I hope you guys are all doing well. And yeah, it's crunch time. This is season defining period for Norwich and almost Farke earring defining, if that makes sense. We all know what a terrific job Daniel Farke and Stuart Webber have done, and that's never going to change. But to take Norwich to that next step, to take Norwich to that top 17 club, which they've had the ambitions to do, it is absolutely massive in these periods now. And let's hope it works out well. But this is going to be a preview between Leeds and Norwich. I'd love to hear your thoughts down below. Whenever a football club does bad, it always gets very opinionated, and there's always a lot to kind of discuss and decipher, so it's going to be really interesting these next couple of weeks. And from a Leeds perspective as well, they've had a few injuries and they're sitting in 17th position. So yeah, these next 5 games: Leeds away, Brentford away, of course Norwich finished 15 points better off against them in the Championship, Southampton at home, Wolves away, Newcastle away. Absolutely huge, and getting to the point now where Norwich City quite simply have to get wins. Let's say we don't win any of these next 5 games. Let's say we draw at Leeds, lose to Brentford, get a point at home against Southampton, lose to Wolves and lose to Newcastle, which, you know, is quite realistic looking at how the season's gone so far. That will be Norwich City after 14 games are winless, and Norwich City, you know, if you take the 40 points needed to stay up or 38 points needed to stay up, Norwich City would need to put in a top 10/Europa League run just to get to that 40-point mark, and that's not happening. So, you know, critical periods coming up for Norwich where wins have to be on the agenda, otherwise it's going to be curtains so early on in a Premier League season, which will be absolutely heartbreaking to see. And look, if you extrapolate the numbers, Norwich City are going down as one of the worst Premier League teams, but plenty to change, and I'm hopeful it will change. Whether that's with Daniel Farke or not, though, remains to be seen. If we look at Leeds, though, Leeds sitting in 17th place. Lots of injuries. They played against Southampton and lost 1-0. And it was a game where they were just riddled with injuries and they didn't have a shot on target. We all know Leeds love to play this high-intensity football, and I'm sure they're going to bring that at Carrow Road. But yeah, there was off sorts and they had lots of injuries. Unfortunately, from a Norwich City perspective, Calvin Phillips is back. Of course, did brilliantly well for England in the Euros. Rafinha, who is, I think, a top class player, looks set to be back. Whether he's going to start or not is going to be huge from a Leeds and Norwich City perspective, because he'll be the most talented player on the pitch. Patrick Bamford's still out, so Leeds are starting to get players back in for this game, but not fully fit. But Bielsa, they sit in 17th position and they haven't had the best starts of the season. But if we look at this second season syndrome, I just don't see it happening with Leeds. I still think they're going to, you know, probably finish mid-table once they get all their players back and once they hit a bit of form. Can I say the same about Norwich City? No, it's been absolutely woeful. I went to the Chelsea game, of course, did the match day experience, and it was just absolutely abysmal from the first minute to the last. Tactically inept, woeful, all of those superlatives, all of those adjectives you want to use in a negative way it was just a terrible performance. And Norwich City were lost 7-0, and that was a deserved result and a deserved scoreline. And it was really worrying to see. Of course, we're not expected to beat a team like Chelsea, but the manner in which we performed was just hideous. And to get 2 points from your opening 9 games simply isn't good enough. And yes, we've played some of the top teams in the division, but we've also played Burnley and Watford, you know, and it's just not been good enough to get the 3 points, particularly the Watford game. It was atrocious. So that's where Norwich City are at the moment. Stuart Webber, of course, came out in the week with an interview, a long interview with various club channels, and it was absolutely fascinating to watch. You know, Stuart Webber come out, and I think no matter what you think of the guy, it shows leadership, it shows balls to come out. You know, the most important person kind of in and around Norwich City to come out and talk about how it's been unacceptable. You know, it takes balls, and it shows a good character, it shows good leadership, and that's kind of what you want to see in these times. He spoke about 3 main topics: the fans, recruitment, and Farke. Essentially said Daniel Farke is staying and it's going to be for the long haul. He mentioned how it's not just Daniel Farke's fault, but it's also the 300 members of staff who need to raise their game. And while I appreciate the the quote, and I appreciate how, as a collective, you've got to come together. It shouldn't just be on one man. 65-year-old Keith, club steward, or the 50-year-old kit man isn't exactly putting in a central defensive midfield performance. So I get the sentiment there, but I think the comment lacks a little bit of weight. Spoken about fans, the fans is a huge aspect, and I agree with some of the comments where when things are going well, you don't really need the fans, but in really troublesome times, you need fans, and you need fans to get behind you. And this game at Carrow Road is going to be absolutely massive, and then the fans are going to have to play a big part. They're going to have to be loud, they're going to have to support the team, and to be honest, I think Norwich City are one of the most patient and well supported clubs. Might not be the loudest, but 22,000 season tickets, 22,000 bums on seats at Carrow Road, always supported well away, and always back their team. And a lot of clubs would have had Daniel Farke out by now. Maybe have Norwich show maybe a lack of ruthlessness, possibly. But of course, we all want Daniel Farke to succeed. He's a great guy. But the fans have always been with this team, and for me, in my perspective, I think that if you can have whatever opinion you want, you can disagree with a team selection, but when that whistle goes during those 90 minutes, you've got to support the team. And to be honest, that's what I do, and that's what the majority of Norwich fans do. And then after the game, or when the game's done, then maybe you can voice your discontent, and that's what Webber agreed with. So yeah, you've just got to, everyone going to Carrow Road, support the team, and see what happens. And then also recruitment as well was a topic of conversation where I've had this debate on the NCC show. I think the recruitment has been quite good. I know obviously we lost Buendia, but we still are the 11th best spenders in Europe, and I know a lot of that money came from Buendia. And look, there's been probably some poor decisions. Josh Sargent, could we have signed someone like Josh King and a bit more experience around the team to help us in the short term? Probably. And yeah, some of the recruitment maybe not have been the best, but I still think it's been good enough, and it's certainly good enough to compete at this level. I think it's been still one of our best transfer windows, certainly going into a Premier League season. And yeah, and I think the recruitment's been decent, and I just don't think Daniel Farke has got the best out of the team. It does take time, but obviously you haven't got time in the Premier League, and a lot of clubs could use that excuse if things aren't going well. So that's where we're at with this team. Absolutely critical period coming up, a crunch game for Norwich and a crunch period in Daniel Farke's era. I would love to see us switch to a 4-2-3-1. Not going to talk too much tactics in this preview now that the video is getting a little on, but the back five, of course, has made us slightly more solid, barring Chelsea, of course. It's made us more solid, but it completely eradicates any kind of attacking threat. When you want Daniel Farke is, a possession-based manager. The 5-3-2 just does not work, particularly with the fullbacks not being particularly good enough going forward. Bit harsh with Max Aarons, but I think it's true. The system just hasn't worked. And okay, against Brighton, we created some good chances, but they mainly came from Brighton mistakes and long balls over the top. And it just doesn't. Everything we've built from this Daniel Farke team, and this is philosophy, his identity, I just haven't seen any kind of philosophy or identity so far this season. I think this is massive for Farke, and I'd love to see us go to a 4-2-3-1. Crawling goal, Giannoulis, Hanley, Kabak, Max Aarons, midfield of Norman and Leeds Malou, Norman and McLean, one of those two, and then the front three, Zolis, Cantwell's out, so Gilmore maybe in that attacking role, Rashita on the right and Pookie up front, something like that. Just go back to his basics, go to a 4-2-3-1, because last time in the Premier League, Norwich City were perhaps naive, although half the games I think we put in some really good performances. This time around, it's not been naive, it's been just disappointing in so many areas and just not good enough in every sense of the word. So that's where we're at with Norwich. But the most important thing, support the team. This is in these periods is when you need the support, and voice your discontent after the game. But in these kind of periods, these massive moments, you've got to get behind the team, and then no doubt the Norwich City fans will. Score prediction, I can't put us for a Norwich City win because we haven't shown in any kind of glimpse of winning a game, perhaps bar Brighton, although they missed a sitter at the end. So I'll back a 1-1 draw. But yeah, massive game for Norwich, and I'd love to hear your thoughts down below in the comment section. Subscribe to Norwich City Central if you're new, and I'll see you later.